for sure. You've hit on so many good points that I'm gonna see if I can recapture each beat of your conversation. But so at first you were talking about like, you know, things being like compatible, like there are games that are, you know, obviously the Series X will natively run, but is it running that, like, you know, that previous version of Xbox, or did it get Xbox One X enhanced and then obviously be more powerful than that? Then that's the mode it boots into. Whichever, and I'm going to talk about it for the PS5 because it's like the exact same thing. It's like okay, what games got the benefits from the PS4 Pro? Like, it's a little hard. You probably have to like Google a list somewhere because like it's nothing about it's clear. Like, I'm over here loading old games from my old PS4 onto this, seeing them. I'm seeing some like perform like they look like brand new games. As you said, it looks like they were meant to be played this way the entire time. You just never knew it. And like, as I was saying, is like it's like Days Gone, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, all hitting that uncapped frame or capped at 60. All of them playing 60 perfectly. And like I said with Days Gone, you know, it's not only seeing that game at like playing at 60 frames per second, but not even coming close to chugging when I was like running away from a horde and like really getting in there and blasting them and throwing bombs, and like I was like really trying to put the PS5, I almost said 3, PS5 through its paces, trying to see like what's gonna make it trip. Nothing did, and it was whisper quiet, as we all talked about. These consoles are whisper quiet, which is like the biggest, like, and what have you, and yes, but when it came to playing other games, there's like it's not so obvious that whether or not they're enhanced. It sort of looks like they play the same. I know some games have like weird post-launch patches where I guess because of the way it was performing on older consoles or whatever, locks the frame rate at 60, so there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, but like I even thought like, you know, the PS4 is big on indies. How do indies look? Well, indies are small games and they play well anyways, unless they're doing like a bunch of shit. Like, who knows what like Ultimate Chicken Run does because of a whole bunch of people flying around and being a bunch of idiots. But I'm sure that plays well. But like, other than that, like indie games, they look the same as ever. They look pretty. Like, some of them look like they're doing 60 frames. Man, what was the other thing? Oh, I'm blanking so hard. I'm losing it so hard. I'm thinking too hard. That's my problem.
I talked a long time. It's my fault.
It's cool. The other good point you had, you came from the Xbox One S, as did I, but you had a PlayStation 4 Pro. I just stuck with my launch. So as you said, seeing these games perform the way they look like they're meant to the entire time, seeing God of War at 60 frames, like buttery smooth. I try to fight a Valkyrie even though I haven't played that game in so long. I don't even know the controls, and it was still fascinating to see these Valkyries jumping around, warping around, particle effects everywhere, explosions. Telling the boy, what was the boy's name again? Artist. Telling him to shoot arrows, and like he just does it in the blink of an eye. Like, all these effects going on, and God of War being as pretty as it is, not even breaking a sweat. And again, I know we keep saying this, but it's fascinatingly impressive how you never hear, like, I was like, I'm gonna hit pause real quick, get something to drink, and I come back and I realize that this motherfucker's whisper quiet. Like, there's no hearing it. Like, in my impressions video where I was just like, okay, let me turn on Miles Morales, let me turn on the 30 frames per second ray tracing mode, let me swing real low, let me get all those effects going on. Is the same thing playing all those other games at 60 frames. Like you hit mute, you put your ear right up to it, and all you can hear is the physical fan. I'm not talking about the fan noise where it's like you can hear it pushing like wind or like being really stressed on its ball bearing. I mean, it actually moving is all you hear, and that even that's quiet. So this is all very fascinating and interesting. Loads of games, but just to talk a little bit longer, to talk about the games on PS3. It's
PS5.
It's great. PS5. Why am I so fascinated with PS3? So yeah, on the PS5, there are actually like a few exclusives. We got Demon Souls as you've been playing. I've been playing Miles. Playing. Sometimes we're talking about some bug snacks and yeah. So like there are a handful of games to be playing. As the internet will address, this is actually a pretty compelling kids console because there's actually a good amount of games that kids can play. Like, you know, they can play some Bugsnax, they can play some Astro, play some older, you know, Fortnite. Or did the official PS5 Fortnite come out? I'm pretty sure
so.
it did. And so that's pretty neat for that. And yeah, and it's good to see Sony, like, you know, hit the ground running when it comes to being like, yeah, you know what PlayStation is about. It's about the exclusives, and bam, we have some. Where's your Infinite at? That being said, you know, regardless of just how, you know, vocal the Demon Souls community has been, being like, oh fuck yes, like we've been waiting to play this game again. Everyone's excited about Miles. You can finally play as Miles in a video game and all that stuff. Like, other than that stuff being excited, that you are right that there's not really that big killer app or like the reason to get the PlayStation. They're very compelling reasons to get a PlayStation, but it's almost the exact same story where it's just like you're going to be playing your old games that you've been saving up on your library, be fascinated in seeing if they run better or smoother or have new capabilities. But other than that, it's just like, you know, just seeing games the way they're meant to be played. And that's really what this whole, like, probably the rest of this year and probably the first half of the next year is going to look like for these consoles.
But God of War has been confirmed for 2021, right?
Has it?
Think so. I think that might be our first showcase.
I would love to see it. Oh, like that is true in thinking, like, when these big publishers, these big console makers finally have their first official showcase, like, you know, that's what we always been waiting for with E3 and stuff like that, to finally see, like, all right, we made you guys play Bugsnax and fucking, I don't know, Fusion Frenzy. Now we're gonna show you the real stuff. Like,
yeah, that Series X launch title, Fusion Frenzy, which is, I could actually play that on my Series X, which is cool thanks to backwards compatibility. But a big point I forgot to say earlier is when we're talking about what next gen means to us, I think we have to shy kind of away from like the graphics point of view, where it's like, how good can these graphics be? How nice can this ray tracing be? And really, what struck me so far in this gen as next gen is just the higher frames per second. You know, I'm so used to 30 frames. Like, we've been console gamers since before time, and now playing these games, like I played Demon's Souls, which struggled on the PS3 at 30 frames per second, and now playing it gorgeous at a buttery 60 frames, playing Spider-Man Miles Morales 60 frames, playing The Outer Worlds at 60, like all these games running so smoothly, I almost can't go back and playing 30 frames games, just because like I am so used to it now. And so like that's what I want of this next gen, is smoother frames, which I didn't think is something I wanted 3 weeks ago.
I don't want it. I want Last of Us Part 3 to be locked at 30 frames. And when cutscenes come up, I want those to be locked down even more to 24 frames because those games look like movies. And you know it's true. You know it's true.
Yeah.
It's not natural seeing realistic.
And then when people start shooting you and you turn the camera and it chugs, like, okay, that's fine.
It's not chugging, it's frames.
Chugging.
Yeah. But onto that segue. We're already kind of there, but let's finish this off. So the future is in our houses. We've seen a snapshot of what we can expect. But I'm wondering what you think the future holds for these consoles. Like what are some of the things you haven't quite seen yet, or are hopeful that you'll start seeing in like the next like 2-3 years, or or we can even go as far as the end of its life cycle.
Yeah. Talking about talking about the future is just really, it's going to come down to Xbox has been playing off like we have games, they're coming, like, trust us. You know, they have Hellblade.
Keep pushing stuff back. Canceling Scalebound.
Yeah, no, and that's something that they've been stressing for years, is like, we have these big titles and they're coming. You know, they announced Fable, they showed off a little teaser. They, like, a new Forza is coming, Halo Infinite is coming, and that's like gonna be a big title for Xbox. And all these different ones. They just bought Bethesda, like all those titles. We want, like, for me to say, in 7 years when what's it called? The space game that Bethesda's making. Starfield. When Starfield finally comes out, it's honestly like a little wild for me to think that I'm going to have Starfield like as part of my Game Pass subscription on my brand new console, like just like there. Like with the Xbox console, that's what I'm waiting for, is for all these big games that I don't have to pay for. I don't have to shell out a bunch of money, and I could just have this big catalog. And that's what I hope for Xbox is to
I'm sorry.
To continue. Go ahead.
It's just on paper, out of context. the entitled statement of, I just want these really big games I don't want to pay for.
Yeah, straight up.
But no, it's true though.
That is it. That's the Xbox promise, is that they're going to continue like these quality games at the same Game Pass, like $15 rate for Game Pass Ultimate. And that's what I want for Xbox, is to show off like something that they've been fighting for years, is Xbox has no games. And now it's like, Xbox has games, they're coming. You'll see, like, once Fable hits and once Halo Infinite hits and the next Gears and all those things, I think it's really going to stack up. And then Game Pass is just already such a good deal. Adding all those on and adding Bethesda's future things and like everything that falls in line with that is what I really hope for the future. When I think of Xbox, I really just want a big catalog of these AAA games that I don't have to pay for, besides my Game Pass Ultimate subscription. And 4K UI. Those two things. That's all you have to do, Xbox. Listen to me, Phil. And that's the basic, what I really hope for Xbox. And then just continuing this trend of backwards compatibility. That's a big part for me. I hope they already have thousands of games on backwards compatibility. I just hope it's they go even deeper. I want more OG Xbox games on there, which is funny thinking about the future. And I'm like, I want more OG Xbox games. But really, that's why you go for an Xbox. You want the big titles and you want your past titles. And it just adds to like the reason to get an Xbox. So I think big things are coming for Xbox, and I feel like the Xbox Series X is out before it really has to be. It's like there, and it is the future, but Xbox just isn't quite ready for it. So I think in a few years, once these big names are going to be out there, Series X consoles are going to be flying off the shelves, once Avowed comes out and whatever else they're working on,
Scorn.
Scorn, Scalebound, once they revive it.
Oh,
and yeah, whatever else comes out, I think Xbox has its best days ahead of it. What about you, Victor? Sure. What's the future hold for PlayStation?
I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I feel like that this time, I think it's the year of, or the generation of Sony listening more, because like I feel like, with things like, nipping at their heels, so to speak, like Game Pass and things like that. So Sony's gonna really have to like adapt here, and what came out is a big statement, a fresh start. I love how they did what I've been asking them to do, which is cut off the dead leg of like the intercompatibility on the system level, the software level of having to interact with like PS3 and like all that stuff, old broken messages shit. And and this is their time to have that blank canvas, to be like, okay, here's a brand new menu. As you said, for the Xbox, it's true for the PS5 UI. It's not perfect. There are some things to change. There are some bugs and stuff, but like that menu looks, it seems to me like it's really fluid. So what I expect for Sony to be doing with that menu and with that game is really introducing just more what's that called, quality of life updates, moving stuff around, adding features, making that game switcher a real game switcher. And it's in the cards, just a small sneak peek into my review for this guy is, it's so weird to me how the game switcher is right there. Like, you press the PlayStation button, you pull it up, it's showing your most recent games that you've played earlier, and you can click on them without any sorts of confirmation of whether or not that's an action you want to do. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you go back to it, it's not suspended. It goes, you have to go back to booting up that game. And that's just telling me that it was a feature that was meant to be ready and it just wasn't. And I feel like that's just telling of everything else that Sony may have had on the back of their mind while developing, but like, had a hit a November 12th release date. And I just think, and I honestly think that's just the narrative for the next few years. It's going to be very imperative, if you will, to have a section of PlayStation Now, like it's right next to the PlayStation Collection. When you go into your library, it's like, here's a tab for Now. Why are they pushing Now? Because I think they also realize the bet that these games, even though Sony themselves are pushing the price, the $70 price, these games are getting expensive. There's a lot of, there's just so many far cries, even from like even less than a decade ago, where it's just like, man, I really just, especially with the digital future coming, it's like, I just really want to try games. I want to see them. I want, like, why isn't there like bundles? Why isn't like Sony competing yet? And all that stuff. And I think PlayStation Now, that like, they went from like being like, yeah, you can stream these PlayStation Now games on PS4, to being like, oh, you can download some of them, when damn straight they're going to make them all downloadable eventually. And I think that's what it is. I think Sony this time, hopefully, is not taking their lead for granted this time. They took it for granted on the PS3. They almost took it for granted on PS4. And this time they're like, okay, there's no fucking around this time. This time we're on listen mode. We're on adaptability mode. And I think that's Sony's feature.
Very cool. So I heard you got some questions, Victor.
I do have some questions for you, Craig. I'm glad that you've segued very
flawlessly,
other than how I do it. So I don't have an Xbox, so there's some stuff I curious about when it came to the thing. And obviously the biggest selling point other than Game Pass is quick resume. We've seen the demos. They're really cool. But I feel like there's a few little details that I don't quite know. I think it's been mentioned before, but I'm gonna get it straight from the horse's mouth. And since you're not Phil Spencer, you're the next best horse mouth. I really just want to know how many games can be in suspended, because as some of us know, suspension is based on like hard drive space. They allocate some space on the hard drive to hold some games. But I wonder if you've seen a limit yet.
Yeah. So this is a tough one because I'm not even sure. A lot of the games right now they have disabled Game Pass just because they ran into some bugs. So
those fools.
No, but a big reason to get an Xbox right now is Game Pass. But it is lagging behind in the fact that it doesn't show which games are Game Pass. Quick resume. The big thing is quick resume, and what's lagging behind is it doesn't show exactly which games right now are compatible with quick resume. So it's kind of a guessing game. So when I tested out my Series X for the first time, I put in Forza Horizon 4, and it didn't work. I put in The Outer Worlds, and quick resume wasn't there. And then it was kind of...
Outer Worlds would be a good one.
Yeah, and I had to try, and then bam. A lot of the indie games and a lot of the smaller games right now, which it's like kind of showing the promise of what's to come. So it's not completely there yet. I have read that it's up to 12, but I think it depends on the size of these games. The most that I've had is 4. So, and it is such a cool feature where you can jump back and forth, especially in those indie games. And like I talked about in my video, how much I like roguelikes and roguelites, and how game changing it is to be able to jump in and out of a game without having to save, because not every game gives you that. So as of right now, I'm not sure. I don't even know if Xbox is sure, like on what the hard limit is or anything like that. Something that they have to improve is, showing which games are going to be quick resume compatible, and showing like there needs to be, there isn't right now, but there needs to be a dialogue box that's like, hey, like if you open this game is going to close. Like, do you want to continue? Because that's not there.
It's not there for PS5 either.
Yeah, so if you jump out of a game expecting to come back to it later and you realize it closed, that's going to suck. So there's definitely room for improvement there. But as of right now, the games that do show off quick resume really do deliver, and really show off like just how quick it is when you don't have to go through title screens and look at the splash screens of the developers and the publisher and all those things, when you can just jump right back into where the game is. So I right now I'm really impressed with it, and just waiting for it to be applied back to the big name games that we want to see it in, like Forza, where I turn it on and play for 15 or so minutes, and like the Outer Worlds, where I can jump in and do a side quest and then jump out of it. So I'll give you those answers when I know them.
Yeah. And I feel like I have to mention this because I feel like there's like a nagging feeling in the back of my head. But for those who are like, not being understanding and like kind of crying bullshit, I do want to say it does make sense that there's a big fat depends on quick resume right now, because I assume like it's not like taking like a snapshot, like JPEG of it, and then like putting it aside. Like you'd probably have to, more like take a snapshot of like the game assets, the scripts, the mechanics of that were like in mid use or whatever, what have you, and then like kind of grab that chunk of what's on screen right now, and then put it aside on the hard drive space. So of course there's a big depends on like your hard drive space, or how much space it takes, and how many suspensions you can do at once, and why some games probably have it disabled. So
definitely,
I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, it's totally different from what we're used to, where like in standby mode, you can turn it back on and play a game like we've had in the PS4 and the 1S and those things. But where this is totally different, where it's actually doing a save state of right where you are, and even if you unplug your Xbox and plug it back in, your quick resumes are still there, which is really cool. And that's the future. That's what we want.
Yeah. Next question I want to ask you was, since we all know that Game Pass for Xbox is really big strategy, I'm just kind of curious because this is nowhere in comparison, but I do want to say that I feel like there is like a blurring line between like being like genuine with it and Facebook slapping a big fat made by Facebook things on products that didn't belong to them at first. Anyways, but like I just want to know how integrated Game Pass is in this UI. Is it like a little bit annoyingly in your face in every corner of the OS, or is it like right where it makes sense?
So as for me, I haven't seen it in my face a lot. It can be on your home screen if like you went to it last. If you go to your games and apps, like you have all your downloaded games, and then there's a different tab that you can click on for your Game Pass games, or to download new Game Pass games. So it's I wouldn't say it's crazy. I think it is all in the right places, and it's crafted nicely into the UI where if I was looking for a new game to play, I could easily find go to the Game Pass app or go to my games and apps, and Game Pass is there, and it has like a cool thing where you can go down the whole list, or you can like surprise me and it'll give you a game to download, like you should try this one.
Oh, that feature's on the console too.
Yeah, which is super neat. So as of right now, I guess I'd have to play with it more to see if it starts to bug me, but I've seen it in all the right places.
Well, maybe not so much of like a bugging thing, because like I don't think anyone's gonna be mad about it. I mean, it is Xbox, and Game Pass is synonymous with it. But I'm wondering if, and I know you can't tell me this because you're currently subscribed, but I just want to know, like, or maybe I'm just more wondering, like, if you don't have Game Pass, does the console make you sort of feel bad that you're missing out because it's like it's just part of the UI and it's sort of everywhere?
Yeah,
that's an interesting question for me.
That's a good question. But I think the other question is, if you're buying an Xbox, why wouldn't you have Game Pass?
Exactly.
If I understand if you're like, I only play Call of Duty and I only buy that like once a year or something like that, but still you have to buy Xbox Live, which is like $10, and Game Pass
then
Ultimate
you might as well.
Is just it's all encompassing and you get so much more for it. So I think if it is in your face, it's for a good reason. Like that's the deal you want. Yeah.
Okay. My last question is your console so cool that it's just like constantly in the parking lot of like a McDonald's and just vaping all day?
Yes. Yeah. The Xbox is actually very cool, as it just shoots vape out of the top, which is a really cool feature I didn't expect. And it's more of a humidifier, so you can like put your own type of vape or whatever you like. Mine has like
oils,
a bubble gum.
The oils.
Yeah. It was funny how that got blown up. Like I was on Reddit when I saw like people were freaking out about a smoking Xbox, and I looked at mine, and like I'm sure there's a way that it could blow up, but it's just like so quiet, and the fan's like slowly moving, and it's just like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, it's got to be some kind of prank.
Yeah, exactly. I felt the same way when I saw and I saw the super out of context way, which is like I didn't even see the beginning or middle of it. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was a re-upload where it was like extra cropped, and it was just showing the top smoking, and I was just immediately like, I don't know about that, because things that are burning tend to have a darker, smokier color to the smoke. I said smoke more than once, and things that was on fire tend to have a white cloud, and the video looked like whitish. So I was just like, huh. And then sure enough, Microsoft tweeted not long afterwards being like, I can't believe we got to say this, but don't vape into your damn consoles. And I was just like, aha, I knew it. Hoaxes are afoot.
Yeah. And that's something that goes with every console launch, with the fake console wars and all like fanboy stuff. Like we really want to blow things out of proportion and like all those things. It's funny because it always happens when the Switch launched. Like everyone was posting about all the issues they were having. And I haven't seen much on the PS5, but I'm sure they're out there too.
Yeah.
Probably blocking out the sun and causing an ice age or something like that.
Yeah, the only thing I saw was just people being like, "Oh wow!" Like I don't know why they didn't just take every reviewer's word for it, where it's just like, "Yeah, the usable space is like 660 something," and then when people actually see it, they're like, "Oh, I didn't believe you." I guess it's kind of weird.
I didn't measure. Yeah. So the first question I have for you, Victor, is with just falls in line with what we're talking about. With every new console launch, there's bound to be some bugs. With the PS5, what kind of launch bugs have you run into so far?
Yeah, there is the notorious one that's all the internet being like it's called the queue and download error, and basically what it is like, people, as it says, like they're queuing up stuff to download, but some stuff they didn't realize was stuck on 0, and so they're like, oh, okay, it's probably like paused or something. It turns out it's not paused. It's not like installing anything. They can't cancel it. They can't pause it. They can't do anything to it. They'll turn the console off, turn it back on. It's still doing it. And unfortunately, right now, the only way to deal with it is to factory reset your PS5. And that's sad if like you were doing stuff and then decide to install stuff and then realize, oh, okay, now I have to start miles all over again or whatever. So that does suck. I have not experienced that at all. I've experienced some weird-ish things like that. Well, not me specifically, but I'll get to that. The first thing I was experiencing was my downloads or the games installed on my external when I was playing on the PS4. All of them weren't showing up. I was telling you guys how I was upset. I was like, the Sony's stopping me from installing Final Fantasy VII Remake on my PS5. And then when I tried it the next day, it was there, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm at it. I'm going to get Control, which I did see on the list yesterday, and it wasn't there. So it's just a matter of like, I guess Sony, it's like controlling how much time it searches on like, I don't know what the error could be, but that's the thing. I'm sure it only affects people who have a lot of games on their external hard drives. I know I do because I have a 4 terabyte. So yeah, there's that. What my girlfriend has been experiencing is, and it's scary playing tech support on your console, but since you're not 100% familiar with the console yet, you feel like you're scared to give them answers. And what I'm talking about is like, I'm at work, she wants to play Transistor. Transistor's on the external hard drive plugged in by USB into my PS5. She says it won't. She said it won't save. She's playing the game, but every time it says one stage, it's like cannot save to. It would tell her it cannot save to storage. And from what I understand, she didn't know which storage, the console storage or the external storage. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna try it on your account because she was on her own profile, and didn't work. Then she's like, okay, let me install Transistor straight onto the console. Try it there. Wouldn't let her. And there was eventually a point where it wouldn't let her play any games. It wouldn't let her play Miles. It wouldn't let her play Transistor. It wouldn't let her play games she just installed, like Cat Lateral Damage or Antipoc, whatever the weird one where it looks like the side of Hercules vases or the movie, the Disney movie. And it was the oddest thing. And again, playing tech support on your console, which when it's being described to you as broken and you're not familiar with how to fix it, you're just like, I think this is reason enough to go to my boss and being like, I'm feeling sick. I'm going to go home because I am feeling sick because I feel like my shit's broken and I'm not there. So this is weird. I didn't see it myself. But I do believe my girlfriend, in which she was saying like she was trying everything. And all she did was like, okay, I'm going to turn it off, leave it alone because I think I broke it. He's like, but let me try one more time. She basically restarted it and everything was fine. Like everything was playing, everything was letting her save. Very odd. I wish I was there to get more answers about it, but yeah. So software bugs. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It is launch time, but of course it's still disappointing to experience.
Yeah,
Did
with
you have any
mine,
bugs?
I did. I just small ones. It was just right when it first got it. I was having an issue with my downloads because I was finding that my downloads were very, very slow. With the Series X, I'm getting like really fast internet connection speeds. You know, I'm getting up to over 300 megabytes per
Brag.
second. Yeah, over 300 megabytes per second. Heh. And I found, you know, when you play a game, the Xbox throttles down, so you know you can play the game and download smoothly, but it takes longer. But I found even after I had closed games, it was still throttling my downloads down, and it was interesting because I was like, that's weird. Maybe it's like a quick resume bug or something like that. And I couldn't figure it out, and then yeah, I had to get a full shutdown and then start over. And since then, I haven't had that same issue. But that's like been the small one, which can be kind of annoying if you don't know what to do. The other one,
especially when you don't know what to do.
yeah, the other one was it just wouldn't log me into my Xbox account. Like it would say the person who bought this game needs to sign in, and I'd be like, that's me, I'm that person, and I would try to sign out and try to sign back in, and it wouldn't work, and I just had to again turn it off, turn it back on. Which
it's funny. Yeah. I had that issue with my Xbox One S before its most current update. Even though I was like, either it was Wi-Fi or wired in, it'd be like, you need to sign in. I was like, well, I set it to automatically sign in for sure. I'll sign in, and I'll click it, and it'll just spin, and it wouldn't log me in, and I'd be like, all right, screw it, I'm not gonna play online anyways. And then it's just like, do you own this game? And I'm like, gosh darn it. Anyways.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as big bugs go, those are small. And then again, it's launch consoles. Some bugs probably might not come up for a year or so. The big one for 360 was the Red Ring of Death, and that was like a 2 to 3 year, like bam, like you have it now. So as for someone who had a Red Rings of Death, and as someone whose Xbox One S died, I'm definitely taking care of this Series X and just trying to stay hopeful that we don't run into any big system errors like we'd seen in the past.
Yeah, no vaping.
No vaping.
Cool.
My second question, yeah. So we've been talking a lot about Game Pass, and the big one that I have for you is, since Game Pass is such a good deal and like a vision of the future, and you talked about like Sony working on that. With Sony's current price point of $70 for Sony made games, first party new video games coming out, how do you see them competing with Game Pass? Like if they're sticking by that price point?
First off, I did not know it was $70. that is quite the cat. Is that for a year?
What? No. I'm talking about a new title. I'm talking about a video game.
Demon Souls games. Is $70. I thought you were saying PlayStation Now is $70. Like,
I think they've knocked down PlayStation Now to $50 a year.
Nice. Anyways, but yeah, like I said, this is Sony's time to listen, because there's no way that that's just the thing. I mean, people are putting up the money for Demon Souls because obviously demons are gonna souls, and you gotta souls the demons, so like you're gonna pay any price you could. I mean, I know you were struggling with it a little bit when you were just like, you know what, it doesn't even matter because I gotta have this game and I know I'm gonna play it past its value because that's how much I love it. So that wasn't a problem, but it's gonna be a big problem for a lot of people. I mean, like I know the biggest example that we were talking about was Destruction All Stars, and we're just like, how are you gonna make a multiplayer game that that its big point is to have multiplayer? Like, it's not just a multiplayer game. It's stringent on multiple people being on an arena and like having to battle cards it out, and then having to put such a high barrier as a bigger price point. Like even if it was a $60 game, people would be like, it's a multiplayer only game, $60, whatever. But now you're like force feeding them like this big price. But the benefit is it got delayed probably to make it better, which is always good. And they're just like, what, for the delay, we might as well just give it for free, because maybe we're hoping that's a sign of them seeing something. But if they saw the entire picture, then they would have at least given like Demon Souls and other $70 games, being just like, hey, how about a day one thank you for buying a PS5 like sale, being like, for the first few weeks, if you bought a PS5, your big thank you, if you're PlayStation Plus as well, is that we're going to knock off like a few bucks for Demon Souls. Like that would have been them very nicely reeling back that price. And they're doing, like I said, they're doing it here and there, and we're only speculating, so we're hoping that that's them seeing it. I mean, and of course, like with Game Pass, if you really want people to feel like, it basically, if you want to have your cake and eat it too, like sure, you can charge $70, but if you're proud of your games and there are things people will buy, shove them into PlayStation Now, like day and date, and you can do that for now while you flesh out your bigger plan to hopefully compete with Game Pass. Is that a thing I see happening? Again, I hope so. I think Sony is going to be in listening mode, but yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah,
I was sort of ranting.
No, I mean, I think you basically hit on everything we talked about earlier, where we have all these hopes, and what would be smart, and hopefully hopefully Sony, hopefully Microsoft, they're finally listening to the gamers and they're giving all these things. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
It's mostly because I'm trying to see what $70 does. Like you could say it's because games are bigger, they cost more. We're trying to get these developers paid or what have you. But as we were talking about earlier, the games right now, even for something as fantastical as Demon Souls, completely remastered from the ground up while keeping its code, like that sounds like so much hard work, and Blue Point ought to be really proud. But it's like it doesn't look like I don't know a good example. It doesn't look like a freaking like Pixar movie, like ray tracing everywhere, crazy shit, like the most is like Grand Theft Auto 5 budget kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering what $70 is, what it translates, and I was like, I don't know, is it a simple matter of like them trying even harder to get that return? Mm-hmm. Who knows? If that is all what it is, and in gamers say loud and proud, like, we're not paying for that, because we're all gonna buy your games by the millions and billions anyways, then if they can convince Sony of that, then we'll probably be fine going back to 60 or seeing that Game Pass competitor.
Yeah, I think gamers are getting more to that wait and see approach, where games like Godfall, where they look super cool, and then that would be a fun game to play with my friends, but it's not $70. Like you can't throw that down, like especially with younger kids, especially with people who like just the normal person doesn't have $70 to throw in a game that we don't know might not be good. We've been hurt by Anthem, we've been hurt by Avengers, we've been hurt by like big name games before. So I agree with you there, where it's almost a must need. So as for my last question, which I actually have one more question past this, but this one is
hit it.
Yeah, this one is talking about DualSense. We loved DualSense. We've felt it in Astro. It's all the rave. Everyone loves it. Now, do you see this amazing use of the DualSense that we've seen in Astrobot, that we felt with the triggers and all the different, that HD Rumble that isn't called HD Rumble, like all these things? Do you see this continuing in big titles? Not just Sony first parties, but like overall, do you think people are still going to be taking advantage of everything the DualSense has to give? Or do you think it's going to be like the touchpad where we use it in Uncharted and we use it in Infamous Second Son and then we kind of never see it again?
Craig, let me tell you, I am deeply pessimistic about developers using these features. And to explain, oh, you son of a bit, I forgot you had to. Now I'm jealous. I'm gonna answer this question by reminiscing about another console that had new controllers and new controller features, and that is our beautiful baby boy Switch. They came out the gate as well, being like, check it out, like it's controllers, you can take them off. You don't have to hold it or play it as traditionally. You can give it to a friend, hold it sideways. You can have just one, use motion controls only. You can do all your Wii Sports stuff like you did before, or you can just be a traditional, you're just playing Skyrim. So just slap the controllers on the side or put them into the controller holder and just play the way you always played and all that stuff. We got HD Rumble, as you said before incorrectly for the different controller, and IR stuff. And where do we see that stuff? We see it in first party Nintendo games. We see it in Labo. We see it in the new Mario. Well, Mario Kart is more of a product than using the controllers, but either way, like it's only Nintendo seeing these fantastical visions of what they see their controller and going about it. And that's obvious because they made the technology and stuff. But to put more example, like what do you see other developers doing with what Nintendo put out? They either emulate sometimes the how many balls can you hear in the controller or whatever. Like they'll do a little bit of that, and it's only like in a small section of the game, and what have you. And unfortunately, like that's just what it is. Like, I mean, I am gonna echo some sentiment that I've heard before, but it just rang true. Like we're going into a console generation that is heavily on backwards compatibility, playing your older games again, and seeing even more multi-platform games. So what you're asking developers to do is either go back to their old games and like see if like they want to implement this stuff alongside their next gen upgrades, or you're asking new developers who are making new games to be like, okay, you're making a multi-platform game, you're making it for PC, you're making it for Xbox, and if you're stupid and dumb and crazy and like to have freaking bottlenecks, you're also making it for last gen. How about for this one console over here, you take the time, maybe budget it out like a freaking 12-man team and make some trigger stuff. It's not going to happen. It just won't. Now, I do see developers seeing like the examples put out by Astro and like all that stuff being like, okay, maybe I'm just going to put like, you have different feelings for stepping on concrete other than grass and then call it a day. Like I do, at the very least, I see it being very underused. Now, will we be happy to see it? Of course. And to be fair, I'm mostly talking about haptics. When it comes to these triggers, I think these triggers are the most evolutionary thing to see. I do see developers being, excited about this because this is actionable instead of the haptics being like a passive thing that you can just feel and whatever. So I am hopeful about the triggers, but overall, like it happens every console generation. It's happened to the pressure buttons on the PS2. It's happened to fucking, I don't know, 360, like no one, or not 360, the N64. Nintendo was probably like, you can hold the control like this or like this or like this, and developers are like, I'm gonna put the controls on the outside. I'm not gonna do anything with the AB buttons or the I'm not gonna fuck with the yellow buttons on the left side of the N64 controller. Just forget it. Like it happens to every console, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we are seeing the first instances like Call of Duty is taking advantage of those triggers, and seeing some things like that. So hopefully that trend continues. But the last question I have, which I didn't tell you beforehand, so get ready. Yeah. Is basically there's so many different types of gamers out there. So what type of gamer would you recommend the PS5 for right now?
Um, yeah, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is anyone who's genuinely interested in like technology and innovation, because I mean, it's way more true on Xbox, but it's still sort of the same on PS4, where it's just like, again, we've been saying this whole time, like, if you're a fan of your PS4 and you have that library, like, yeah, things will look better, and that's what we think is true next gen, but it's not a reason to buy anything. So the only reason to get a PS5 right now is looking at its striking design, believing in this trigger. I know I was just super pessimistic about this controller getting the support it deserves, but yeah, if you see this controller, and if you believe in like the 3D audio coming from like the Tempest engine, and the shaking and the triggers and stuff like that, you really just got to be hardcore about it. I mean, that's what Xbox is excelling at right now. If you do just only see the value in like playing your older games better, or what have you, Xbox has a price point for you. I mean, I hope your library is digital, but if you do just care about things looking better, and you just want to play Fortnite at stable frames, like, Xbox has that for you. PS4 does too, but it's at a higher price point and has a little bit less point to that, aside from that. So you really got to care about Sony's games and where they're headed to buy this game console. And that's a very convoluted, very wordy explanation, but it's the one I have.
No, I think that's good. That's kind of why I asked, because it's a question I've been thinking about a lot lately. Is just, there's three, four, there's the new Xboxes and the new PlayStations, and when we're talking about these, a lot of the time we talk about if we were young, for kids who are gaming, and if, like, for a kid who only plays Fortnite or only plays Apex or those games, where I wouldn't suggest getting a Series X, because, like, unless you had a 4K display, which most kids don't, or care about frames or can even see that. But that's where the Series S excels at, where it's at that entry point, it's at that price point where kids can get it for Christmas or whatever that looks like, and still be able to play everything you could play on here, just at that price point that's below this one and below the PlayStation. Whereas for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, it's more for those hardcore gamers, or the ones that want the most out of their consoles and want all the bells and whistles, as opposed to like I was talking about earlier, where somebody plays Call of Duty, like they buy a Call of Duty game once a year and they just mostly play that. But it's cool to have options, and I think as of right now, it is only the most hardcore gamers that need the new consoles, because there's not those must-have titles. And especially in the Xbox line, if you still have an Xbox One X, like, you're sitting pretty for a while. You don't need the Series X, which I almost jumped on the One X when that Cyberpunk version came out, but I'm glad I didn't. But it is cool that there's so much variation against the consoles, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, where it's like you have to really care about what Sony provides as first party titles, especially when you go in knowing, like, they're gonna be amazing. They're also gonna be $70, and they're like those kinds of things. But I'm pretty happy with them.
Yeah, there's just to echo that, there is that there's this crucial age group that I've actually been thinking about, which is 16 or 17, right around the time where your parents sort of stop paying for stuff for you, and then often like when you're 25 or whatever. My point being, when you're a young adult in high school and college, and you have to pay for the stuff yourself, Xbox has that shit fucking locked down, because you can take your current console you already have, and if you don't mind the hangups, if you don't mind the 1080p or 720p in some cases, if you have the older consoles, $15 a month, cancel your Netflix or go to your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and being like, hey, can you pay for Netflix? Because I gotta pay for my Xbox Game Pass. And then your college kid, somehow by some fucking miracle, you have $300. You can play the latest and greatest with the rest of us. You just don't have 4K. And at that point, you're like, who cares? I just want to play the newest game as pretty as possible. So, unfortunately, Sony doesn't have that. Like, the only college kid who's going to do that who is the one who just really loved the shit out of their PS4, and I think that's the only people buying PS5s. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's the show we got for you guys.
That was a good talk, Victor. How do you feel now? Are you gonna go run out and buy a Series X?
I am planning on buying a Series X. I am incredibly jealous of two things. That is the quick resume, like you said. Once they start, fleshing that out and rolling it out some more, like it's just going to be quintessential. I do not see how this guy over here won't be able to do it. It's definitely capable of doing it. They just, for some reason, never communicated whether or not it will.
Probably requires a lot of space, not to.
Yeah, a lot of space it doesn't have.
Yeah.
Especially mine. I'm already down to like 80 gigs.
So it's a PS3 now.
And yeah, it is. And EA Play on Game Pass. I need it. I want it.
Yeah.
I gotta have it. I have a PC, so some of those EA games are on PC. So I'm really happy about it. So I don't necessarily need a Series X, but why not?
Why not?
It's the future.
You
might as well go on with it.
Look at that. That's the future right there. The green glow.
Thank you guys so much for joining our next gen special video podcast extravaganza. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Again, if you're on YouTube, please comment down below and tell us, are you excited to buy these consoles? Did you buy them? Are you having positive or negative experiences? Tell me all about it. Tell Craig all about it. I'm sure Craig absolutely loves comments and loves replying. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this next gen episode of the SpeakGeeky podcast and watching as well. Remember that you can chat with us by sending a nice little digital letter, the digital version of snail mail, to speakgeeky@outlook.com, or you can go on Twitter, search all the social medias for SpeakGeeky. That's going to be SpeakGeeky Media on Twitter, SpeakGeeky at Instagram, and search SpeakGeeky on YouTube. But you don't need to, because you're probably already there if you're watching this. And yeah, so please check out our videos, our other videos in there. Again, Craig has his first day impressions, as do I. And stick around for the review. They may take a little while. Craig's got a busy work week, and I'm just plain out lazy. So, no, I'm not. I'm working on it. And but please keep an eye out for that. After all this next gen coverage is said and done, we are going to go back to doing our gameplays. We're going to be doing our games less travel, our gameplay highlights. I want to play Bugsnax for you guys. See how that goes.
Talking about Bugsnax?
All right, I'm talking about Bugsnax right now. Dang. And so if you like watching people play video games, stick around for that. And that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys again. How many times can I say thank you in an outro? I don't know. Craig, why don't you say thank you and goodbye?
Thank you and goodbye. buy some consoles tonight.